So I've got a pretty interesting question for you guys. If I ask you, hey, what's your opinion about a new company and their new product? Like in a general standpoint, no specific company. You might say it's probably going to be interesting because new companies tend to try to release new, wacky, and fun ideas, right? In that case, if you thought the same thing, you'd be right. And this is the Xiao Qiao, which is going to be a $70 or 4,000 pesos single dynamic driver from a company called Harmonic Empire, which is a sub-brand of Tangzu. And full disclosure, Harmonic Empire did send this out to me, but we had an agreement that essentially everything in this review are going to be my own thoughts and opinions. And as proof of that, here's going to be the email snippet. Alright, before I do my usual references and such, I want to show you guys the accessories, which are definitely going to be the highlight of this package. So you start off by receiving an acrylic stand of Xiao Qiao herself, then you immediately get blessed by her presence right from the get-go. Then once you've stopped maybe oogling at her, which is going to take a few minutes or hours, which is kind of suspicious, that's you. This is based out of experience, but anyway, we immediately see a round faux leather case and the IEMs themselves within this gorgeous looking package. But it doesn't stop there. The cables and the ear tips are actually good, like you can see it right here. On the cable sides of things, they are color matched, and it's a 0.78mm 2-pin connector with either a 3.5 or a 4.4 balanced termination. But do bear in mind that they aren't interchangeable terminations, but just for the quality alone, I really wouldn't mind it too much. On the ear tip sides of things, there are 3 sets of regular ear tips and silicone ear tips, like Tangzu style silicone ear tips, as well as 3 sets of these very nice liquid silicone tips, which are what I'll be using for my testing. And it doesn't stop there. You also get an acrylic keychain and 2 sticker packs out of the box. Now, with brands offering less and less accessories these days, this feels like a breath of fresh air. I just wish that the box was going to be a bit smaller to help reduce shipping, storage, and production costs, which translates to probably going to be a cheaper cost for these IEMs. Speaking about the production cost, these have a very nice looking resin housing with a CNC aluminum faceplate and accent piece along with the mesh at the front for ventilation. This procedure is not cheap, especially for a newer company, but it shows just how much effort they put into making these first product as a true benchmark. And with that in mind, I wanted to love this so much because of just the accessories, the production, the love behind it, and just the mere fact that they've made something that stands out this much just by the looks alone. But sadly, the comfort is not there. Though they're light and solid feeling at 4.85 grams per earpiece, these are pretty thick at nearly 18mm, and it's also tall at 23mm, and 16mm is the deepest that it goes. The taper here at the bottom is also going to be pretty thick at 10.7mm, and the nozzle that goes in your ear canals are at 6.4mm for the tip diameter, which means that it not only feels massive for my ears, but it also violates my ear canals, where I start to feel them after 5 minutes or so, and it starts to get really painful around that 10-minute mark around the anti-helix part of my ears right there. Now, for the most polarizing aspect of this product, the sound. But before that, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to every single one of you guys for helping this channel and me as well to reach 1,000 subs in just 3 months. It truly means a lot, and now I guess my goal is to reach 3,000 by the end of the year. I want to see if we can make it possible. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that. You came here to see this. No, I mean this one. Alright, so my preference is a neutral bright tuning with an added sub-bass boost to somewhat balance the treble, and I usually have my volume set at around 45 to 55 when I'm on my laptop, 13% hardware volume for Hibi music when indoors, and then 14% hardware volume when I'm outdoors. And the reason why I stated hardware volume is because Hibi music on Android can directly bypass the built-in DAC and amp of a phone when you connect something like a GM6 Pro or a TRN Black Pearl. And on that note, these are sadly going to be a bit far from my preferences, as they took a pretty deep V-shaped flavor of the IEF 2025 preference, where you get a lot of sub-bass, bass, and lower mids on top of getting a 4K Hz boost on the treble. I can also use these with my regular volume levels, as the single 10mm graphene dynamic driver only has a 20 ohm impedance level. As for the sound, bass hits are heavy, punchy, and it's something that you feel. These have more of a bass shelf rather than like a bass boost, if I'm gonna be honest, where they're really good for songs like Starboy or Popular by The Weeknd, but they don't feel as fast nor do they sound particularly high res. I'd say that these are pretty reminiscent of the bass response I got from the Q2, where the Xiao Qiao feel a bit more boomy and like bassy due to the lack of mids and upper mids. And on the topic of mids, it's nothing special where I'd even go as far as to say as it's perfectly meh. Lower mids provide a lot of warmth and is well pronounced, while the mids and upper mids are sadly recessed and veiled by the bass shelf and the treble peak at the 4K Hz, where songs just like Likey by Twice starts off with a tasteful amount of treble and bass, then cohesion drifts into the abyss once vocals arrive. Songs like Test Drive by London Music Works provide like the best example of the lack of cohesion, in which case like low-pitched instruments sound really low and dramatic, but high-pitched instruments sound lost and overly done, which then provides the whole there's a lot of this and there's a lot of that, but there's not a whole lot right here, which just feels like two mountains being connected by a bridge which is about to fall apart. Speaking of a bridge, Another One Bites the Dust by Queen has a good chunk of beefy bass riffs and this swirling sound, and that's present. And you'd think that the Xiao Qiaos would be perfect for this type of song due to the V shape building up on like the extremes, right? Nope. This is another example of like the bass and highs taking over while causing the mids to fade into the background, where the swirling sound becomes ear-piercing very quickly. Orange by 7 is another song that I used to test the treble, where the chorus part there sounds mushy for almost any IEM I've tried in the channel, and this is sadly no exception to that. The vocals and instrumentals, unfortunately, like they blend into one another to the point where the upper mids lack so much energy that the violins and pianos sound smooth, but like the vocals tend to be cluttered and blended, especially in like areas where there's a lot of drums. S's and cymbal crashes also sound spicy and shouty due to that 4K Hz peak, where adding an additional 5% to the volume makes these unbearable to listen to, as the drivers are also practically close to my ears, like flows directly up my ears. And like speaking of like directly up my ears, soundstage isn't helped by the semi-open back design, unlike say open back headphones, where the open design here does more for comfort rather than it does more for technicals, where things like imaging, speed, separation, detail retrieval are all pretty much going to be average sounding, which isn't really a problem if the fun oriented tuning was fun, but I really don't think that a shouty and sibilant experience does a good job at that. Gaming wise, these are very nice for immersive games, say like Batman Arkham Knight, but games with a lot of high-pitched sounds and noises like Genshin Impact or ZZZ could potentially sound peaky and irritating after long hours of use. Games like Valorant are also going to be out of the picture, as the amount of bass covers up a lot of the details from mids and isn't really helped by the lack of energy in the upper mid. Now, I do have to say that I don't really own or have a proper perspective on what $70 IEM should sound like, so I can't really provide potential comparisons with confidence within the same price range. However, I am confident in telling you guys that the sound and comfort are sadly not worth the price here. Although, like once we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, $70 for everything this includes out of the box is an exceptionally good value proposition, where I'd give these a rating of C+, in which case I can't really comfortably and confidently recommend this set unless you go ahead and say that you love great accessories, great design, and you love a big, lushy, boomy bass and don't mind the potential sibilance that it offers around that 4K peak. With all that said, this has been the Harmonic Empire Xiao Qiaos. Subscribe to the channel. My name is Charles, and goodbye.